Mercedes' development for the 2024 season has been heavily affected by their disappointing results in Brazil, something that forced the team to search far and wide for viable solutions to not be scratching their heads once again. However, one massive approach has been revealed just ahead of the Las Vegas GP, and while it seems like the team has figured out what is essentially wrong with the W14, the upcoming campaign is still likely to pose yet another data-collecting threat for the Brackley-based squad. What is this latest approach that Mercedes will have to tame, and more importantly, how will it affect both of the drivers? It goes without saying that the 2023 season for Mercedes has been quite the roller coaster, but nothing could have prepared them for what arrived in Brazil. Russell's DNF after running in the lower points in the race and Hamilton's P7 finish were dubbed the worst racing weekend for the team in the past 13 years by Wolff. And with Allison sending an email back to all the engineers in Brackley, it's safe to say the situation in Mercedes is going to change drastically when it comes to developing the W15, the challenger for the upcoming season. Be that as it may, the team has taken a different approach to the quantity over quality testing that George Russell reckons led to the flawed W14. And in the previous months, there was constant talk about how Mercedes needs to change its car concept yet again. We must not forget that the team brought a B-spec version of their car back to Monaco this year, but the gains were not as they were expecting them, and teams like McLaren were able to cut down the gap in the second half of the season and therefore pose a direct threat to the second seat of Mercedes in 2024. But according to Wolff, the results in Brazil showed that this was definitely the direction the team should move towards after the Brazilian GP, adding that it is necessary to commit to throwing everything away they've known for 2024, stripping the car down to the last nut and bolt, and to see what is essentially wrong with it. While Mercedes did cure a major amount of the problems that hindered the performance of the car, such as the porpoising, the W14 is still going to go down as one of the worst cars that have been produced back in Brackley, right after the W13, one that was at least able to win the race in Brazil last year. While the drivers did back the team to go down this road, with Russell stating that the poor 2022 season of the team and the urgency to recover in 2023 have caused some rushed decisions, the 2024 process is poised to give some fruits to harvest back in Brackley. And elaborating on this, Russell went on to say, "We have 12 months further information and direction, and we've managed to implement some of these changes we want for 2024 in certain tests so far this year that work as we anticipate. The work that we're putting into 2024, we've been a lot more thorough with our assessment of every single decision. The car was nowhere near where we wanted it to be for the last season, and we felt a lot needed to change for 2023. We perhaps rushed a couple of decisions without thoroughly testing out the simulator, going through the potential consequences, and we were just trying so many different things. It was more quantity over quality testing last year, whereas this year we've really nailed down on the direction we want to go. We've thoroughly tested that process to kind of triple check this is the direction we are taking." What Russell is essentially trying to elaborate on here is the fact that the team is going to implement new methods when it comes to the W15, and this time it's not going to be without any communication with everyone in the team involved. Earlier this year, we were hearing statements from Hamilton about how he wants the engineers back in Brackley to take responsibility for the poor performance of the car, or Wolff saying that the drivers did not deserve to drive what the engineers had built for them, which clearly showed a pattern of disrespect towards the hard-working people back in the UK. However, it seems like that's now in the past, and through communication and feedback, the team will work their way through the grid and find out what needs to improve on the W15. But will this mean that they will finally be able to fight for wins? According to Russell, this doesn't mean that we're going to have the fastest car on the grid. It just means I don't think we are going to stumble at the first hurdle. And it's not just Russell who spoke about this matter. The technical director of the team, James Allison, has said at October's Qatar GP that Mercedes had more meetings rather than significantly adjusting the way it conducted them, admitting that the team is now spending a lot more time with each other and that after 2 devastating years in the sport, now is the real time to bounce back. Allison's primary goal is to ensure that what Mercedes is working on is well aligned with what they are describing, because the realistic scenario that we are in right now is that the team might have 2024 as the only opportunity to attack Red Bull and potentially McLaren with the current regulations. 2025 is poised to be more or less a similar season as 2024 because everyone will be shifting their major focus, both technical and financial, on the major shakeup in 2026. So the importance for Mercedes to have a more serene and effective development process now more than ever has risen through the roof. But can Mercedes do this with all of the recent high-profile staff departures? With Mike Elliott being gone from the sport, the team has been left with a hole that will be hard to fill, even though he was the leader of Mercedes when the W13 and W14 were constructed. But now that the Brackley-based squad is back to working under a different technical leader on a day-to-day basis, we're yet to see whether the most intelligent human being that Russell has worked with will absolutely annihilate the chances of the Silver Arrows to push through in the upcoming season. Luckily for them, it seems like the advantage that Red Bull currently has is not as big as many would like to perceive it, and the 19 out of 20 wins in the current campaign are something that it is impossible to repeat in the upcoming season. Still, the course of where Mercedes is moving has changed from the previous month, and when elaborating on this, Allison said, "I feel like all of us have got a pretty clear-sighted view of what we want to do with the car. This championship, while we haven't made the really impressive progress that, say, McLaren have, we have, nevertheless, been charting a path through the season that gives us a very clear idea of what we need to put right. That makes next year's fun very exciting to look forward to, and this period of the year extremely enjoyable." It is not an everyday sight that you see Mercedes being happy about the upcoming year while knowing that the current version of their car faces so many issues, but I guess that we'll learn more about the W15 and how the team put their workflow together in order to compete up front. Still, there are some issues that the team would have to fix outside of the car's design, such as the pit stops, the tyre strategies, and the ever-looming drivers' intra-team battle. So more likely than not, the next couple of months are going to be very hard working for the people back in Brackley. With this in mind, Wolff is still certain that for the upcoming season, the solutions for the car have been found, and what Mercedes needs to do right now is to survive the last two races that are poised to be a very difficult challenge for the team. And when talking about this, he added, "After promising races in the US and Mexico, we didn't perform our best in Brazil. We've been hard at work to identify the wrong turn we took with the setup. We understand our mistakes and can explain our performance loss to the field." But as Horner said, there comes a time when you need to accept that you are no longer the best team on the grid and you need to work your way up, just like Red Bull did after leaving the pedestal from 2014 to 2020. But with a lot of learning on the table and with such little time available, do you think that the new approach from Mercedes will be successful? And if so, do you think they'll be able to challenge Red Bull more frequently in 2024? Let us know what you think in the comments below.